Hello all, welcome to oratrainers.com. In this session, we'll discuss about how do we configure CMK for AR Invoice and Oracle Cloud ERP. This is the agenda. We'll discuss about what is CMK, what are the main steps required to configure CMK for AR invoices, the table details, and how do we test it, and if you come across any issues. What is a CMK? CMK is out of the box functionality which is provided in Oracle Fusion for the purpose of generating the messages for the easier exchange between B2B. So you can exchange the XML documents between Oracle Fusion with the third-party business to business for AR invoices, purchase order, and some other documents. And it supports different formats: OAGS, CXML, UBL, EDI, etc. So now, the major important thing is how do we configure? So these are the main steps which are required to configure the CMK for AR invoices. Let us get into the first step. The first step is enabling the feature, navigate to setup and maintenance. In that, you select the financial area, and there you select change features often. This particular one, click on this one. It shows this particular pop-up or other window. And there you select customer invoices processing. Click on edit, nothing but the features. And here make sure that this particular option, receivables invoice delivery in open application group integration specification 10.1 XML format is enabled. This is the initial check-in where you have to do it for the enablement of CMK for AR invoices. And coming to the next step, navigate to a task called manage collaboration messaging configuration. And here most of the setup would have been defaultly ready, but just validate whether it is enabled or not. In this particular manage collaboration messaging configuration, in the first tab, in the general setup, check it out, the relevant checkboxes are enabled. And then click on business process setup and make sure that you mention the appropriate delivery message information. Okay. So in this first screen, general setup, make sure that mention the maximum size, and coming to the next screen, business process setup, check it out. What is the value, whether, like the checkbox for the order to cash is enabled or not, and make it enabled, and also check the additional details in this invoice outbound. So we are configuring AR invoice outbound in this particular training session today. Okay. Now, coming to the third step, click on tools, navigate to collaboration messaging. And then once you click on navigate to once you navigate to collaboration messaging, you'll show this particular screen will be shown. And this check the task list. You have to click on manage collaboration messaging service providers. The task name is manage collaboration messaging service providers. And in this one, what we have to do is we have to create a service provider for our CMK. So just click on plus symbol, mention the service provider name, provider ID, ID type generic, and description. Once you click on save and close, it will navigate to the next screen. The first thing you have to do is you have to create a delivery method. It supports around 3 + 3, total 6 delivery method types it supports. You select the appropriate one based on the requirement. And once you create the delivery method, just click on the outbound collaboration messages. And here you select invoice or mention the name. It can be any user defined name. And the collaboration messaging definition, make sure that you select the appropriate message definition. Again, it depends upon the requirement. In our training session, we selected OAGS 10.1 process invoice collaboration message output. And the delivery method, like in the first task, in the first tab, we selected delivery method. We created delivery method with the name email delivery, and we have selected that, and make sure the status is active. Okay, this is third step. That is manage service providers. Now coming to the fourth step, to deliver the AR invoice XML at a customer account level in the profile, the customer account level profile in the invoicing section, the preferred delivery method should be XML, and you enable the XML for the respective type of your invoice debit, memo, chargeback, credit, all these things. Okay, the preferred delivery method should be XML, and you enable it appropriately for your type of invoices. Okay, this is at the customer profile level, a customer account level, customer account profile. Okay. Now coming to the fifth step, go to tools collaboration messaging. In the task list, you have to select manage B2B trading partners. Click on that. It will show this particular screen. In this one, click on plus symbol. Now select the service provider which we created in the second step. In this trading partner ID, just mention the customer account number and mention the partner ID type as generic, and then click on save and close. it'll come to this particular screen. Here you create the collaboration messaging training partner name. It can be any name. And this again, you select the appropriate collaboration messaging definition, and then select the delivery method and make sure the status is active. This is a fifth step. And coming to the final step, we have to do a linkage between the customer account as well as the trading partner information. Just now search for your customer account number, click on edit collaboration messaging, and then here you just create a service provider. Nothing but you have to select, click on plus symbol, select the appropriate service provider, select the trading partner which you created in the earlier screens, and then here in this particular collaboration document for service provider, just select invoice outbound, make sure that they are enabled. Okay, these are the 6 steps mandatorily you have to configure appropriately for your CMK for the purpose of AR invoices. Once these all steps are done, you can perform a test run, navigate to tools, collaboration messaging, and here in the click on the administration section, click on validate outbound collaboration messaging. And in that, you select the first step, you have to select the appropriate collaboration messaging. And in this one, you just mention the customer name. 1 minute. So here, if you observe, right, in this particular step, you just need to select order to cash. You have to select order to cash in the first step and the document type invoice outbound. And then once you click on that, select the second step. In this, you have to select the customer account number or customer name on which you have enabled the XML definition. And then click on next step. By default, a sample payload will be created. Just click on create message payload and then click on process. Once you click on process, it will generate information saying that this particular outbound message is generated. Okay, so this is how you can do a test run, but this is not enough. This test run is only at the CMK level. But if you want to do an end-to-end test run, what we have to do is we have to create an AR invoice and then we have to do a test run. So now what we'll show that also, like by creating AR invoice, what we do is we'll create a AR invoices for our customer account number for which we have enabled CMK. So I have enabled CMK for the user account for the customer name ABC application software. I created the invoice, and once you click on complete and close, what will happen is this is ready for CMK. But unless you run the job name is generate and transfer XML transaction, the CMK will not get triggered. Once you create an invoice, and if it is in complete status, run the job called generate and transfer XML transactions. And this here, if you observe, right, I selected the customer name and also I selected the account number, I mean the invoice number. If invoice number is not getting shown here, it means that there is a missing configuration issue in your CMK. Until unless it shows your transaction number here, your CMK is not correct and you have to recheck everything. And once you select the appropriate values, click on submit. It is not mandatory you have to select it, but to validate whether our steps are correct or not for CMK, you just select the appropriate values. If it is enabled here, then only our CMK configurations are correct. And then once you run the job, it will run one more child job called load extension attribute for XML transaction. And this load extension attribute for XML transaction, we use it for the purpose of configuring additional attributes for your CMK output. As of now, we are using a standard OAGS format, but in some of the custom requirements, wherein you can add up extra XML elements also. And internally, like this load extension attribute XML transaction is a BIP report. In the data model, you can add up the extra elements. And this generate and transfer XML transaction will run that particular BIP report, get the additional data, and append those additional columns into your CMK output. And then you can get the transformed output, the appended output also, if you want to do it. Else, you can just go with the default functionality. And now once your particular job is completed, you can check the status of your CMK also. How do you know that our CMK has generated XML correctly? What you can do is you can go to manage invoice transaction and search your invoice number. And you can see the columns like XML delivery status, is delivery succeeded or not, and ready for XML delivery is yes or not. Based on this, you can successfully say that your collaboration messaging configuration is correct for your AR invoices. And also, again, you can navigate to validate collaboration messaging, and there in the appropriate collaboration messaging, you can find out whether your invoice number is getting shown or not. That is another way also you can validate. Okay, so this is how we can do a testing creation of a CMK. And also, if you want to still get into deeper, you can get into some of the tables of CMK, where you can find out what is a particular message generated for your CMK and what's the status of that delivery created or not, whether CMK is configured or not. You can check out the log tables also. These are some of the important tables of CMK. Okay, now we'll just navigate to Fusion and let us see the details again one by one. The first step is go to setup and maintenance and select the financials. receivables, click on change features opt-in, and here select customer invoice processing and click on features, and here make sure this particular one is selected. Receivable is the invoice delivery in open application group integration specification 10.1 XML format. This is the first step. Once this is done, you can navigate to setup and maintenance and click on the search task list. You can search the task called manage collaboration messaging configuration, and here make sure these are selected, and also if you want to enable the web service size, you can mention this, or else you can ignore maximum size of your data limit. You can mention that, or else you can ignore, and click on the business process setup and make sure that you select the customer order to cash and also invoice outbound. And this is, if at all, if you want to enable attachments in the payload also, you can select the appropriate one and you can click on configuration additional details. And you can mention the number of documents that support concurrently, or you can just simply ignore with the default. Okay. So this is the second step. Now the next step is you have to click on tools, go to tools, click on collaboration messaging, click on the task list, click on manage collaboration messaging service providers. And you can, as of now, like I'll show the existing one, or if at all, if you want to create the new one, just click on plus symbol and you can create the new one. And I'll try to show the existing one, click on edit. In my case, I'll just click on edit. And delivery method, I'll select, I just created with the delivery type email, and you can just click on plus symbol here. It shows the list of delivery method types it supports. Based on the delivery method you select, you have to provide the appropriate credentials and the properties of that respective delivery method. And click on outbound collaboration messaging. Let me just mention some name here. Okay. And click on outbound collaboration messaging. And here you have to select, you have to mention your appropriate name, your outbound name, and then select what kind of message you're expecting. What is a message definition you want to select for your outbound, and it provides all the information like a CXML, UBL, OAGS, CMK. Right, these all formats it supports. In our case, we have selected invoice outbound, right? Process invoice collab message outbound. This is the one which is selected. This is for the purpose of AR invoices. Okay. And once this is done, make sure the status is active and select the delivery method also. I'll click on cancel. Once service provider is done, go to the customer profile and make sure that you set the status of that particular customer profile as active. Okay. Let us go there also. Receivables, billing, task list, customers, ABC application software. Click on account, profile history, and you can correct the record. If you don't have profile, create it. If it is existing one, just can do a correction. And here you select the preferred delivery method as XML and you enable all these particular options. This is at the customer account profile level. Okay. Now go to the tools again. Collaboration messaging. Now click on B2B trading partners. Okay. And here what you do is you just click on click on create. And here in the service provider, you select the service provider you just selected for your CMK. And here trading partner, you just mention the customer account number and select the partner type as like partner ID type as generic. Okay, once you click on save and close, it will navigate it to next screen, and I'll show you my existing one. And click on edit. And once you get in the next screen, you just create outbound collaboration messaging here, mention the name, appropriate name, and make sure that you mention the same collaboration messaging message definition. You select the same message definition which you selected at the service provider level. Select the same delivery method name, what you mentioned earlier, and make sure the status is active. This is the B2B trading partner level. And the final one is, click on done. The final one is your manage customer account collaboration. And here you select the order to cash 2360. Mention the customer account number. Here, if you observe, right, it shows the checkbox already because I already selected it. I already enabled the collaboration messaging. Or let us say if you want to enable it for one more also, you can do it. For now, I'll show the existing one. I'll click on edit collaboration messaging configuration. And here you create, click on plus symbol, select the service provider name, and by default, remaining things will get populated. And here in the collaboration document for service, just click on plus symbol, you select invoice outbound. Okay, this is a final configuration for the messaging collaboration, CMK for AR invoice. Now, how do you validate? Click on validate outbound collaboration messaging. And here select order to cash, select the invoice outbound, select the second step, select the customer name, ABC application software, click on define payload, click on create message payload, and click on process. It'll the default message which was generated that will get processed, and then it will generate a outbound message. As of now, we have selected email as outbound delivery message. That's why I cannot show you the exact how it reaches the destination, because the outbound to email generally will not work in the testing environment, but in the real environment it definitely will work. And based on the target environment you mentioned, that target environment should receive the XML from the Fusion. That's the overall functionality which we want to test it, right? So now click on next. You can see the collaboration messaging. It will have a status also, and then you can done. You can just check the status, and based on the message also you can check it, and check it the appropriate delivery methods, whether it reached or not. If it's SFTP, you'll have appropriate SFTP information, and if it is a host, it'll have if it is a web service also, you'll have a appropriate web service information. So this is how we can validate a collaboration message CMK from the this particular tool. Now, if you want to check the CMK, working CMK stuff, like whether our configuration is correct or not from the receivable invoice level, what you do, go to receivable and click on billing. Now let us create an invoice so that we can check the real outbound stuff also. Click on create transaction. Click on select the business unit. But it's not working. 1 minute. Yep. And then transaction source. I'll select my username, customer name, 26360. ABC application software. Okay. Line description. Okay. Now I'll say complete and review or complete and close. Make sure that invoice is completed. Make a note of the invoice number. Okay. Invoice, this is the invoice number. I'll make note here. 72765. Okay. Now 72765, right? Just search the invoice number here, 72765, and check the status of the XML. Ready for XML. Ready for XML is no, and there is no status of XML information, right? Now I'll go to here, tools, schedule processes. And now run the job, generate. and transfer XML. Generate and transfer XML transactions. And here you select US1 business unit. And here I preferably select the customer name so that we want to know whether our particular invoice will be shown or not. 26360 and check the invoice number 72765. Perfect. It shows our invoice number. It means that our configuration is perfectly all right. But still we have to wait until unless our job is completed. Click on submit and just select hierarchy. This may take some time. It's running. This has to kick out one more child job. Yep. The load extension attribute for XML transaction. Okay. Still running. But parallelly, what we do is let us navigate to our invoice. Tools billing 72765. 72765. And now the status is changed to no. As of now, it is no earlier also, but here it says delivery in progress. Delivery in progress. Earlier it was null. Now it says delivery in progress. It will just take couple of seconds or minutes to get finished that also. 72765. Let's retry again. It's still in progress. Ready for XML is yes. And now assume that if your job is completed successfully, what you can do is you have to navigate to tools, collaboration messaging, right? I think it's completed because earlier it was 7 messages. Now it shows 8. Click on this particular one and you can select the latest one. I hope this is the latest one. And here you can just select the transform message and check out your particular invoice number is there or not. If it is there, definitely this is our invoice which we have generated using AR invoice. Okay. So this is how we can validate end to end for AR invoice via creating AR invoice. And also we have seen how do we validate using CMK also. So this is all about configuring CMK for AR invoice and Oracle Fusion. Thank you.